Eric, Eric. No, Eric is not hearing me. Eric, are we ready to go?
Sure.
Okay, let's go. Someone can close the door or invite people in. Let's go. Because I'm gonna welcome you to Accepting Bitcoin Donations deep dive. It's a workshop, not a presentation. Because I'm hoping by the end of this 30-minute slot we will actually bring up BTCpay server instance and start accepting funds for some cause. It is a deep dive, but yeah, don't be too worried. You can imagine this as a brief deep dive. You're like on the edge of a cliff and you're about to jump in this sea of Bitcoin, but there is a bunch of Bitcoiners already swimming, and they're ready to get you out if during your jump you do anything. We have BTC sessions, we have Livera, we have Jimmy Song. He will help you, just don't play chess with him. So, yeah. And as for me, I'm Rockstar Dev, sometimes called Uncle, which is why you have Uncle Rockstar there on the slide. Also, you have my Twitter account. So on your device, you can go to that Twitter profile because I'll be tweeting out some links during the workshop so you can participate. And before I go into workshop, I first of all want to thank Strike HRF for their big donation that they announced yesterday in support of BTCpay server. Jack, where are you? Yeah. Thank you. Because they're joining our other supporters, and all of these supporters at this point are now funding like 20, I don't even know, like we're close to 30 people that are contributing to BTCpay server in various ways. It's not just us developers, it's non-technical people, so it's really a great project to get started. And if today's workshop inspires you to contribute in any way, just go to there'll be links btcpayserver.org, and you can start from there. So, yeah, this is the roadmap for today's presentation. First of all, I see a lot of Bitcoiners in this room, so I'm wondering if I'll be preaching to the choir. Like, how many people here are like actual human rights activists that never heard about Bitcoin before? Yeah, I mean, we can abort this session then. There's 5 of you. Yeah, so. Or we get Gladstein to get some people in. But.
Well, we want to listen.
Oh.
Get in the back.
Okay, so let's go. I'll be like Andreas in 2014. 6 people. But no, seriously, this may actually be good because we will be able to focus on your causes, and it will be a quick presentation because it really takes 5 minutes to bring up a BTCpay server and start accepting donations for any cause that you see as valuable and that you want other people around the world to join you in. So first step, I need to explain what BTCpay server is and why you should use it. Thanks to the fact they have like 25% of Bitcoiners, that will not be hard. You already know answer, but for rest of you, I'll try my best. And then we can get inspired with all the previous campaigns that were ran on BTCpay server. We're all hot on that, and SARS, Bitcoin Smiles, a lot of great campaigns happened. Finally, 3 and 4 are the meat of this presentation, where we will check web launcher providers, Voltage and Lunanode, pick one of them, then launch the instance, set up a crowdfund, and then run it. Finally, celebration, last step is all about showcasing that no good deed goes unpublished. There is always an article or several of them about BTCpay server crowdfundings once they end. When it comes to what is BTCpay server, on the slide you have like formal explanation with self-hosted open source Bitcoin payment processor. But really it's a piece of software that runs on top of Bitcoin core node, Lightning nodes, a technology stack that allows you to accept Bitcoin payments with 0 fees and without trusted third parties. trusted third parties are security holes, as you heard from Matt, Renee, Lisa, and Gloria previously. So these features that you have here, like essential apps, built-in automation via API, native wallet management, for people that are non-technical, like it is all about what you see here on the screenshot. It is all about getting to this QR code where you can get all the information necessary for you to make the payment. And during the presentation, I may use some of the words that are scary for non-technical people or people that are not in Bitcoin. Maybe you don't know what open source is or what cypherpunk is, what happened with Segwit 2x, what is Bitcoin Core Node. But don't worry, I mean, if you don't understand all the terms, hey, again, there are a lot of great people here, so they can help you with, like I can help you with in the Q&A section. And yeah, let's jump into why BTCpay server. Why do you want to use BTCpay server and not Kickstarter or Indiegogo or whatever platform? And really answer to that question is kind of answer to the question of why Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin, a BTCpay server is also free and open source, and it is built to encourage self-custody and individual freedom, individual choice. So it is a cypherpunk tool that really allows you to be in control of your money. When you bring up BTCpay server instance, you're bringing up also the best type of Bitcoin core node, which is economic node. It's a node that validates that Bitcoin you receive and send follows the consensus rules that you believe in. And when I joined BTCpay server, that mission almost 5 years ago with Nicholas, it was all about that. We had this big provider, BitPay, who had thousands of merchants, and during the block size wars, they just decided themselves that all the merchants on their platform, for them, Bitcoin will be Segwit 2x coin. And then they published this tweet to which Nicholas replied that they're lying, that he no longer trusts them, and that he will make them obsolete, which is actually happening because they're running out of money. Let's see, maybe we could do over under on when Bitcoin BitPay goes out of business. Bitcoin is not going out of business, but. Emperor Nicholas just started coding, and really in record time you had plug and play replacement for BitPay. Any merchant that wanted to switch to using their own node or bring up BTCpay server and the node had a replacement that they just have their web shop. That web shop, they bring up BTCpay, and instead of now that web shop pointing to BitPay and using their API to process payments, it would be using BTCpay and processing payments without any problems, like no fees, no trusted third party anymore. And really that spirit of self-custody is deeply ingrained in the project. Like anything and everything that we do on the project is with the goal of empowering that self-custody, individual choice, individual freedom. And it really goes beyond Bitcoin, and for me and for everyone on the project. Us cypherpunks have been saying for decades that this way, the way of free, open source that leverages cryptography and its asymmetry, is the only scalable and robust way to go forward. Because as Eric Hughes wrote in Cypherpunk's manifesto in 1990, it is not up to governments, corporations, and other large faceless entities to provide our rights out of their benevolence. And rights are not given, they're taken. So really you need BTCpay and software like BTCpay to defend your rights and ensure that you're not swallowed by this hydra of collectivism who in its fear will turn onto you as existential threat. And I think that's very well illustrated through some of the crowdfundings that we had that I'm going to highlight later. So if all the presenters here at Bitcoin Academy today didn't manage to explain why Bitcoin, I would really encourage you to take this mental image and keep it in your mind. So you can see that Bitcoin is a shield that defends your individuality against the collectivism that threatens it. And then you just add to that shield with tools like BTCpay and other tools that are developed by cyberpunks. I do want to be clear, that I am not absolutely against collectivism. I mean, meaning of life really is all about being part of bigger groups. I mean, look at us coming here today. So, but that opting into groups need to be voluntary. And the same way that, you need to say, hey, I'm going to pick up a hoodie, get it up, and join the cause. But the same way you can do that, you also need to be able to opt out. You need to say, hey, I'm leaving this group. And to me, that's the essence of and pattern of all the talks that we are witnessing today and yesterday at Oslo Freedom Forum. It is always this story about bigger groups oppressing individuals in smaller groups. And if we are to survive in this digital information age, we need to level up our technology and our individual sovereignty. So with that, let's look at some of the campaigns that were ran using BTCpay server that highlight this very well. First of all, we're all hot on it. That was our first big campaign that we did on BTCpay, raising money for Bitcoin Space Cat to fight against unfounded lawsuits in multiple jurisdictions. What can you do when you have a psychopath, pathological liar going against you? And unfortunately, this is still going on for those that don't know. So, shout out also to Peter McCormick for fighting Craig in court. There's a good thread going on Twitter. But if you can do anything today, you can also tweet out Craig is a fraud, but make sure you're in the US because he doesn't go against us in the US. So besides that, and SARS, oh my God, this one was also a big one, and I loved it because in case of SARS, it was a protest by feminist coalition in Nigeria. They had this infamous special forces and police, and they were going after people for a long time. You would think that if certain police unit has such a reputation that people are there are mass protests in the country, you would think that government would say, well, let's see, maybe we should fix this unit. But instead, then shut it down. But instead, they shut down the protests and the bank accounts of people involved with the protest. So in the end, NSARS could only turn to Bitcoin as a way to raise funds, and it was great for them actually, because as soon as they got their BTCpay instance up and running, and now they could receive donations not only within the Nigeria but worldwide. And Jack Dorsey, also CEO of Twitter at the time, he tweeted out the link to the instance, and they raised a bunch of funds and were in the end very successful in their protests. Bitcoin Smiles, this is an initiative not only by BTCpay but Bitcoin design community, and a lot of you in this room have actually donated to the cause. So thank you for that, and to me it's really beautiful how wider Bitcoin community can help impoverished people living in rural areas of El Salvador with their dental care. And then fellow shadowy supercoder Gleb, this campaign is still going on. When Kharkiv started being attacked by Russian forces, he really quickly got this up and running, and he is now accepting donations still, and distributing help in around Kharkiv. So Shout out to Gleb. So, if you want to run campaign, you can choose. There are like multiple ways to host BTCpay server. Here, I have listed 3 ways, going from the easiest one to like less easy to like less easy. Although Luna Node is also pretty easy, but at this point, Voltage, I love what Graham and team have did. Shout out to them. It's very user-friendly launcher, and within it also has 7 days free trial. So all you need is an email. That's it. Nothing else. No other prerequisite. Then Luna Node, actually, you need to register account, so you need email. If you don't know the guys, you also need phone number. But you create account, you create API keys. It's maybe 10 minutes. And finally, the most advanced way, which in the interest of time I will not get into, is like this configurator we did that just gives you bash script that you can then run on your own or through SSH. So let's get going with setting up crowdfund. So I'm going to use Voltage, and this is how you would do it. Let's go Voltage Cloud. Go with get started. And all you need, is to register. So I'm going to use.
Norwegian keyboard?
Norwegian keyboard is killing. Shift 2.
It's on the right hand side, there's a specific key.
Yes. Workshop how to get plus on Norwegian keyboard. No.
Oh, it is. What is that?
You want plus?
I want it HRF. And at is where?
That's on the right hand side. It's on key for that. Oh, sorry, left hand side is different.
Help me out, man. Oh my god. You have at on Norwegian keyboards here.
Sorry,
Check it. Graham, you need to fix this. Enter doesn't work on form. Someone needs to time me. Will this be done in 5 minutes? Because I promised crowdfunding in 5 minutes. Let's go. Save password. Why not? Yeah. Matt, did you like that? Privacy advocate. He rug pulled me, by the way. Privacy. Rug pulled by privacy advocate. So I'm going too fast now under pressure of time, but you saw you can bring up a Lightning node, you can bring BTCpay server, you can bring Bitcoin Core node. And when it comes to store name, are our 6 human rights activists still present? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
What are we raising money for? For Ukraine. Are we all up for that? For plastic helmet?
Ballistic.
Oh my God.
Too fast.
Are we all up for that? Let's go.
Cuba and Nicaragua as well.
Cuba.
Nicaragua or Ukraine?
Nicaragua.
Well, Ukraine.
And then we're raising for Nicaragua. Okay.
Cuba.
And Venezuela. Oh my God. How much time we have? Okay. Ukraine first. Yes, okay. Wow. Yeah, Graham enter works on this one. Oh my god, I need to press enter again.
Yeah. You have it saved. You can just copy paste. Push the key. Save password.
Google Plus sign.
There we go.
Now I'm a real developer. Copy paste. Well, I don't know how to copy paste on this one. And, damn it. No, real developers, they work on Windows. Satoshi said it nice. On Windows only. So save password again. Win for privacy. So here, all you need to do is define a wallet which will receive your funds. Now, the best way to do this is you connect hardware wallet, but in the interest of time, again, we are going to just go with wallet which will be generated on the server. Obviously, don't do that, especially if you're using voltage, because then Graham and the crew will be able to access your funds. I mean, if they're monitoring this creation. But now, let me do this quickly.
So we shouldn't use it. We shouldn't use
Take a screen. I'll take a photo from it.
Well, by now everyone took a photo. Everyone will be controlling funds. Let's go. Group ownership. Multisig, yeah. Wow. It works. So, this is, yeah, privacy best practices. Yeah. Track. Now we do have a wallet, so we won't be able to send too much funds to this. Someone is going to swipe this. But once you have a wallet, you just go here, new app, you select crowdfund, and you name, okay, app name, Ukraine. And as the presentation says, it's all about app title, display title, description, currency. So here we will go Ukraine tagline. What's the tagline for crowdfund?
Ukraine.
That's a great tagline. End the war. Let's go. And here you define, okay, what is the target amount we're trying to raise? So let's say, what, 1 million? Cool. No, 10,000.
No, it's just
Nothing, yeah, I don't know. No, listen, you will actually raise funds here when someone will swipe it, but yeah, once you define the target, you also need to define perks, and you say, okay, I don't know, small donation, say this is $1, say maybe medium donation. And when you define price, you can also say, hey, this is not fixed, it can be minimum. So if someone wants to donate 10 and over, they can do that. And then, yeah, I can go with large, and that also can be minimum, I don't know, 100. And the great thing is also you can make it, okay, this is like custom, fully custom, where you say, hey, there is no amount, whatever you can donate, it's good. And this is working out much better than when I did this presentation with Adele, who is our general counsel at Stripe. She was going, I was like, hourly rate 500, she's like, I don't know, more like 1,000. So these perks are much more affordable. And when that's pretty much it. You now can save this crowdfund, and you can go and view it. And if I click small and I say, okay, continue, what will happen is that now I'm having that ability to pay, and let's see if I manage to pay it first before someone from the audience. So let's see. It's on chain. That's messed up. So let's see who wins. Let's go more like. Oh, someone paid it. Nice. Nice, whoever you are. And here is the beauty. All that we need to do now is make crowdfund public, save, and now people that are watching on the stream as well, see, they can now start donating to the cause. So I can now tweet out this link. Give me just a sec. There we go. No. Yeah, you do have a Bitcoin wallet. You set it up during the earlier sessions. Oh my God, why are we even doing this?
Funds are coming in.
Yeah, funds are coming into you. Yeah, maybe like swipe. So yeah, I'm now copying the crowdfund. I'm tweeting it out, and now anyone from the World Wide Web can start donating to the crowdfund. Yeah, you can go on your devices. You can donate, and we're going to keep it up and running while I finish the presentation. And really, I mean, I just want to give some best practices when it comes to running a crowdfund. You need to prepare support before you go live. That's critical. And if you have any existing channels that you can leverage, like website, Twitter, mailing lists, do that. The most successful crowdfunding that I saw were usually between 2 weeks and 30 days. If you do go with 30 days, make sure that you have something interesting, like every day 10, day 20, day, yeah. And do have someone in the team who can roll up their tech sleeves, monitor uptime. If you are accepting lightnings, there will be management of channels and liquidity. And finally, if maybe you have fully transitioned to Bitcoin, but you have people in your team or your vendors that still prefer dirty fiat, there were some recommendations for exchanging, like during previous sessions, but yeah, I can give a shout out to Bitrefill, Packs, Full Hodl, and services like that. And then finally, as I said, no good deed goes unpublished, so get ready to be published and be in the news. In the end, yeah, I want to give a shout out to my fellow teammates in BTCpay server that took the hoodie, put it up with me, and yeah, we're rolling together. So I did bring it up in like 5 minutes, but I'm over time when it comes to the session. So yeah, this is where I would close. And thank you all for watching. Yeah, let's now raise for Nicaragua and Venezuela as well, and let's send those funds to you so someone doesn't swipe it. Thank you, everyone. Or because no one is interrupting me, I just keep going. Gladstein, is Gladstein here?
It's just outside.
Can you call Gladstein to BTC sessions?
What's the question?
Oh, let's hear a question.
Can you give me 3 minutes of your attention?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm Berta from Nicaragua. And
mic.
for those who don't...
Get the mic.
Better. 3 minutes, you can count it. So my name is Berta Valle. I'm from Nicaragua. For those who don't know what is happening in Nicaragua, in 2018 there was a massive protest against Daniel Ortega and Rosario Murillo regime. And the way that the regime reacted was with a lot of violence, and they killed in the first 6 months of this protest more than 355 civilians, like in the streets, and most of them were kids. So right now in the country, we have more than 180 political prisoners. 7 of the 10 presidential candidates that were supposed to run against Daniel Ortega last year are in prison, and one of them is my husband. So right now I'm working and doing advocacy internationally to call the attention of what's happening in Nicaragua, but also to put pressure on the regime so they can free the political prisoners. So that's my cause. And there's a page called sehumanonicaragua.com where you can learn more about their situation. And just to give you an example, they had been disappeared for more than 70 days. And right now they have lost a lot of weight because they're starving, basically. My husband, for example, has lost more than 55 pounds, others 60, 70. The women that are in prisons are in solitary confinement for almost a year. And during this period, they haven't allowed us to have a phone call, a letter, or even a drawing for our daughter.
What's the website? We'll get it up.
Yes, it's Nicaragua.
Ser humano?
Se, like be human.
Okay.
Se humano Nicaragua.
Like you're gonna type it in.
Oh,
I got it.
Yeah, like,
Okay.
as long as there is no plus, you're fine.
Okay, yeah. So then they're in some of them solitary confinement. You can also search Nicaragua protests. You will see the images are horrifying. So there was a crackdown in the leadership of the political spectrum and also activism. So right now in the country, we don't have the presence of any organization of human rights. We don't have the presence, for example, of the Vatican, which it was big before. We don't have the Red Cross in the country. So it's a very desperate situation because after Haiti and Venezuela now, we are the 3rd poorest country in Nicaragua. So sometimes when we are working with grassroots, we have this situation where we cannot have a meeting because they don't have cell phones charged to have connectivity. And so in the table we were talking about this, how can we help them avoiding this repression that the regime is implementing right now. So for me, just being like really amazing to understand that there are a lot of tools that can be used in a very, free way. And so I hope that we can take advantage of that. So this is the webpage. It's in Spanish right now. We are trying to translate it in English. Again, resources are very important for that. And also, there are families that are very, very poor. So they have to bring food to their family members who are in prison. And because they have to travel from a long distance, it's really hard for them. So one of the things that we want to do, I work together with another wife of another political prisoners, is to be able to support them. So we are not only doing advocacy for our husbands, but also for the rest of the political prisoners in Nicaragua. So thank you very much.
Thank you. There's the next slide from the board. So,
May I also add a question? How actually it works in a country where there is basically no possibility to raise money at all, for example, if it's immediately blocked by the government?
well, government can't block this, yeah.
What's the question?
So,
Can you repeat the question?
yeah, the question is how do you raise funds in countries where government can block it? So the answer is that government can't block this. So I just want to ensure that we can actually send you the funds because as you can see, funds are being raised. So yeah, and let's just go to Bitcoin wallet and you go send. And where are we sending the funds? Yeah. That's what I need to see. Yeah, let's work with setting up that wallet with you. In the meantime, I'm going to bring down the page so that people don't get wrecked. Sending to address private key block. Yeah. And sorry for it. Yeah, and just last thing, final thing.
Yeah.
Come to the podium. because you've done a great thing with organizing this Bitcoin Academy,
Thanks, man.
organizing for us
Oh, wow.
Bitcoiners. So I want to give you this from the team.
Thank you.
Declare it a nice to
Yeah, I just want to say, Berta, so that like the idea is like obviously we can help you so that you have an API like this on your website, so that anyone around the world can donate Bitcoin, and that you control the funds or your friends control them. The key will be for you to understand how to sell the Bitcoin into the local currency when you need it, right? And there's a bunch of people here who can help you with that.
That's great.
Yeah, so we'll get that done. Yeah,
I want
yeah.
to ask something else.
Yeah.
If I, for example, want to run a fund,
Yeah.
I don't want to go public because if the Cuban government will immediately.
Totally. You don't have to make it public.
I want to, do it maybe into a group of people that, private, that would be interested in knowing. For example,
Yeah.
now I'm thinking this is about accountability to make these governments pay,
Right.
For example, if I wanted to do investigative journalism,
Sure.
set a group of journalists, or if I want to pay the lawyers, or the lawyers in Cuba or in Nicaragua to actually take care of these cases, maybe about the cases of the children, I want to raise funds for that, but I don't want to go
Yeah, so-
public on Twitter
so-
because
yeah, so all-
do you have a network
Yeah.
that I can...
100%. And I'm doing a workshop at like around 6:10 to explain how to help with NGOs. But very briefly, we do this all the time because a lot of people who donate to HRF want to be private. So they don't donate. One thing is to use BTCpay, which actually is helpful, but you don't even have to have that on your website because that obviously flags you as being a Bitcoin user, right? So sometimes people don't want to do that. So what you can do is, even on a mobile wallet, you can just distribute specific, either a Lightning address or an on-chain address, which we can explain to you why those are different. But the point is, you just give them one-time use addresses out selectively, privately to people. You can do that. So this is very doable. It's just a matter of us teaching you the best way to do it. And then when you receive if you're funding stuff in Cuba, your contact has to know how to swap it for MLC or whatever they need. That's actually pretty easy to do. Yeah, that's very easy to do, but you need the right people to teach you that. But we know some good people. So anyway, thank you, Rockstar, for an awesome
Can I add
session.
something?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Do like a quick 2-second privacy workshop. So, shout out for the beer tap. It's working beautifully, NFC enabled, right? But what I noticed in 2019 in Berlin is that when you on your wallet, like on your Bitcoin wallet, please tap the balance and hide your balance, because when you put up your phone to scan the beer tap, everybody behind you sees how much money you got in your wallet. And I don't think actually it's a very clever private thing to do. So in your Moon wallet or whatever wallet you have, most likely, if you tap the balance, it will basically hide it and give you stars. And then you can put your phone up, scan the beer tap, and nobody knows exactly how much BTC you're holding. And I think it's very important. So,
Yeah.
yes.
What's that? You guys can keep it or cut it. It's up to you. Yeah, we'll stream it. Yeah, 100%.
All right. Next up, Renee and I are going to do a little bit about the Lightning Network. I guess we're trying to keep it as hands-on as possible. So it's more of a workshop, and we're going to show you something, and not do a academic explanation of how it's happening. So we're going to show you more the how and not necessarily the how in practice, not in theory. So I guess we could start off by, is there anybody who wasn't here for the moon installation in the beginning when Ben did?
Ben, raise your hand. So who has not seen the presentation by Ben?
Okay, so if you raise your hand, do you have a Lightning wallet installed already?
Yes.
No. Okay, could somebody help this gentleman out to get a wallet installed, because then we can just skip through that part. And does everybody have some sats on their phone to use? So okay, it's okay. If you don't have any, just raise your hand, and I guess somebody will give some to you, because then we can skip that part as well, because you were already hooked up earlier. So that being said, So I'm Jeff, running Full Whale Bitcoin and Lightning Network research company from Berlin, and we've been doing Lightning Network related stuff for a couple of years. Bunch of events and also selling some Bitcoin and Lightning Network full nodes called the Raspberry Blitz, and taking care of the project. It's all open source. And this is René Pickard, who's a data scientist and researcher who's been working on the Lightning Network academically for a couple of years, and who's also published Mastering the Lightning Network, basically the most comprehensive book in some short, like 400 pages, which gives you a pretty good overview, which you can refer to later if today's explanation is not satisfactory. And before we jump into the more practical parts, René is going to say a couple of words on sort of the theoretical foundation, and maybe also differentiate a bit between on-chain Lightning and on-chain Bitcoin and off-chain Bitcoin, which is Lightning. And yes, René.
Thank you, Jeff. Just to add, I didn't write the book alone. There was Lula Osuntokun, more commonly known as Roast Beef, the CTO of Lightning Labs, and Andreas Antonopoulos, who are my co-authors, with whom we did this together. So I don't want to waste too much of your time with like academic stuff and like weird things, but I think during the conference we saw several times there's Bitcoin and then there's this Lightning Network thing, right? And here we're basically telling people, hey, use the Lightning Network. I think the general gist is, if you want to use Bitcoin in your everyday life for like smallish payments, for like just like gifting somebody or donating somebody or like transferring, like paying stuff in a store, like, you know, these kinds of things. Bitcoin on-chain in the way how it was originated is a little bit tricky to use, in the sense of like, if everybody in the world would do this, we might have problems. So the main reason how we like solve this problem is we created a thing called the Lightning Network, and there's often a lot of confusion of like, here's this another cryptocurrency, because if you like go to other conferences, you will find like a lot of crypto and, you know, like a lot of things. But what I really wanted to tell you just in the beginning is the Lightning Network is really just a smart way of using Bitcoin. So yesterday we were standing at the booth and Gary Kasparov came along, and he was just like looking around, and we were having this like really amazing moment where he was like, what is this Lightning Network thing? And we basically explained it to him in a way that he like could probably quickly understand, and it caught his attention. We said he like really wants to look at it. So I will try to like just summarize what we did there. So the main idea of the Lightning Network is that you basically together with another person hold your Bitcoin together. So what Jeff and I could do is we could basically set up a wallet where Jeff has one secret and I have one secret. And only if Jeff and I agree to what we're doing, we can spend those Bitcoins on chain. Right? But without involving the blockchain, Jeff and I could update contracts and negotiate how we spend those funds. And we can like transact with each other a lot of times, right? If you were in the privacy workshop, that's one of the reasons, or one of the ways how Jeff and I gain some privacy, because we can negotiate this literally standing here next to each other. And well, I mean, here is some people would see it, but if we would go like to some room, nobody would see it, right? And then what we could also do is, if Jeff then had another channel, like we call these things payment channels with Gary Kasparov, I could basically say, hey Jeff, I will in our channel give you some Bitcoin if you can prove that you gave some to Gary, right? And in this way I can actually pay Gary Kasparov Bitcoin transfer value, and the blockchain never sees this. So this is like this neat idea. And I think the idea of this session is that we see this in action, because a lot of Bitcoin payments are being like really fast. As I said, there is sender privacy involved. So I will hand this back to Jeff basically, because I think you're doing more of the like, demonstrations, right?
Yeah, if you have any questions or want to discuss specific things, just raise your hand.
Can I just make one quick comment for the activism? Great explanation, but you don't need to know that this is necessarily happening, and there are a lot of experience them, where you don't actually have to set up these channels of walls to do it.
That's what we're showing in this session.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want people to know
No.
how this works.
Sure.
Okay, so as you've all been hooked up with a wallet, which in the case of Moon actually does Bitcoin on-chain and Lightning. We're just going to use Lightning for now. You heard about privacy and keeping privacy, and that's one of the first things I wanted to show you, and which you can also try, which we actually created, or some people created for specifically for the Oslo Freedom Forum to showcase Lightning. I guess a bunch of you will probably be using VPNs. Who of you does have like some sort of VPN setup? Is using Tor maybe as well, or a paid VPN, free VPN? Okay, does anybody not know what a VPN is or what it's used for? Okay, great. So, well, usually if you want to have a fast and reliable VPN, you have to go to a paid service, and the paying implies that you pay them through some means, usually credit card or maybe PayPal, which means the VPN provider does have a lot of your data. You oftentimes also sign up with an account and leave your email address, and that's not all. That's with Lightning, it's completely unnecessary. There's an easy way to do this, and if you want, you can actually do this right now. The only thing you need is an app called WireGuard, which is a VPN app that's not related to Lightning or Bitcoin or anything. It's like a regular VPN app. Works for iOS and Android. So you can download that. Otherwise, I'm just gonna run a quick demonstration. In this case, so it's llvpn.net. In this case, these are the credentials for WireGuard. You can either enter your own or just generate a new key to be on the safe side. And there's a choice of 5 different VPN servers. For example, let's see, there's some content that's geo-blocked only for Finnish users, and you want to have a Finnish server, but you only need it for 1 hour, sort of as a throwaway. In this case, it's only the equivalent of $10. You create a Lightning invoice. Somebody wants to try and pay that. And that's paid already. I guess you did it?
Yes.
Yeah. 19. And this is the credentials for WireGuard. If somebody who has WireGuard installed wants to scan it.
There's WireGuard installed. All you do is scan the QR code. This QR code has the necessary credentials for the VPN tunnel, and then you just scan it, give the new tunnel a name, and that's it. You have a new VPN.
Okay, and that's basically, so the payment was instant and basically anonymous. The VPN provider doesn't know who we are. The only thing they know now, which is still an issue, but there's no perfect solution, I would say, is that they can, of course, see your IP address. But that's the only thing that they would know about you. And ideally, they have some practices where they don't keep that data, but that's a different discussion and not really related to Lightning.
Can I say something?
Yes, of course.
Like in the other panels, there was always this concept: I'm receiving from my activist group some donations in Bitcoin, and locally I have the problem to spend them. Well, here you don't have the problem to spend them and get them in your local currency, right? But maybe in your activist group you might have the issue of, how do I transfer my local currency to pay the VPN? Well, if you raise your donations in Bitcoin, you can buy yourself a useful service where your bank, you don't leave a trail there, right? So that might be useful. So just wanted to make this very explicit. To the points that Jeff made, if you go to the front page, can you just go back to the front page? There is, for the more technical people or for the people who really need this, the show FAQ page. And this actually gives you all the stuff that this service provides you protection from, and all the stuff that this service might not provide you protection from, right? As we discussed before in the privacy panel, it's always a trade-off, it's always do your own research, right? If you understand VPN very good, then you don't need this explanation, but just be aware, it's like there are situations where VPN might not help you. So just that being said.
And this is also a showcase. In this particular case, it was used for sort of the more technical people. It uses LN bits. which is relatively easy to set up, similar to BTCpay server, which Rockstar Dev showed you before. And you can basically implement this into any website that traditionally needs like a sign up or some sort of account. So this is just a showcase, but I'm kind of expecting a bunch of commercial VPN providers to kind of offer the same service, because it like takes away the necessity to collect payment information that you don't really need if you want to provide privacy to your customers. So, any questions regarding this particular one? No. Okay, great. Another thing we, especially the privacy workshop mentioned, was using throwaway SMS or throwaway phone numbers to verify for certain services. For example, there could be the case where you're an activist, you want to get a new Twitter account, but you need your phone number to verify or to sign up. There's a service called smsforsats.com. It's also pretty straightforward. It will give you a SMS and a phone number. Let's see if Nicaragua is there. Yep. You can select the. Okay, I'm not too familiar with that.
Twitter, for example.
Oh, you can use exactly. You can use the service you intend to use it for. Let's say Twitter, for example. Because it's traditionally a problem with like free SMS or registration-free SMS is that a lot of people would just Google it and land in the same services, and tons of people use the same number. So somebody might have already used it for Twitter registration, and you wouldn't be able to reuse it. So in this case, this page tracks whether this particular Nicaraguan number has been used for Twitter already, and will give you a fresh one which hasn't been used for Twitter for a Twitter account, for instance. And it's like you can payment request again. It's 3,000 sats, which is approximately $1 right now. Somebody just pay it. You scan it. They're paying it. Great. So some other donor just scanned the code and is sending the money. It did send. It did send. And now it should. Well, this is demo time, right? Oh, there it is. Okay. It was like almost instant. And here's your phone number. So you can just copy that number to receive SMS. It times out after 20 minutes. So you have 20 minutes time to use this as and send an SMS there. And well, in this particular case, well, we should have used a local number to demonstrate this better. Or, yeah. So I don't know. Does anybody have free SMS? You could try and send an SMS to that number.
Can you increase the size?
Yes, I can, but I don't know how.
Awesome.
Yeah. So if you send. Yeah. Okay. Can I close this?
No, everybody's sending mail bombing this number.
Yeah, so we have 19 more minutes. Oh, this is going to run over time. I guess, yeah, so this is another thing that was mentioned, using phone or sort of anonymous phone accounts or phone numbers for privacy preserving services. I guess like you could probably all think of several services that where a phone number would come in handy if you, especially like in the case, I mean I picked Nicaragua because you talked about it. I guess it goes for the number of services was pretty long, and we can just come back to this in a second. Did somebody send an SMS?
We will see in 5 minutes if somebody did send an SMS.
So another one which was mentioned before, which is just a great service in general, is Bitrefill, which lets you exchange Bitcoin, or basically like spend Bitcoin for a number of vouchers and phone top-ups worldwide again. So you can click on choose a gift card, and again choose a country. I'm going to choose another country in this instance for what else do we have? Cuba. Okay, that's going to be tricky, but maybe they have Cuba. Yeah, they have everything. So then you see like what kind of gift cards you can buy that are usable in Cuba. I'm not going to run through that process now of actually buying it, but it's basically a shop, and you are able to pay via Lightning, as well as on-chain Bitcoin, and just kind of.
It's basically the phone company that receives.
Yeah, there's a bunch of phone top-ups, so you could just like at least fund like somebody's phone.
Yeah.
There's some countries where you could fund some phone credit, and you can also move that credit to somebody else's phone, and some countries use that to pay for things. That works in Cuba as well? Okay,
yeah.
so that would be a great use case for Cuba to like actually get, what's it, peso? No, what's the currency in Cuba? Local currency?
The peso.
The peso, yeah. To get like Bitcoin into peso and move it around locally in the country without like, in a pretty anonymous way.
Yeah.
Let's see if this SMS was received. No, well, it should work. And here's another use case. So it's absolutely not related to activism on first sight. But I just let you do it. You know, there's somebody somewhere in the world, we've discussed it, and there's like several opinions where these chickens actually live.
In Florida.
You know that?
No, there are several opinions.
Because this site has been around for a couple of years. I think the chickens moved at some point because the site was down as well, and so they might not be in Florida, which is exactly illustrating the case you don't know. But these chickens are super hungry, and they actually rely on us feeding them. So as you can see, I mean they're average chicken. There is actually. Well, they used to be at least. No, I don't want to delay feeding. You can. No, there used to be an FAQ where the chickens are actually shown and introduced. Yeah, okay, but okay, they used to be Daisy, but unfortunately she died. That was my favorite chicken. Maybe she overfed. And she was called Daisy because she was lazy. In any case, let's show some love to the chicken. Could somebody pay that? Sure, it's only 300 sats, so it's like less than a beer. And again, this is somewhere in the world.
It's paid.
Oh, it's paid already. And if you pay attention to the feeding mechanism, no, there it is. So we actually don't know who paid it.
Yeah?
Yes, it worked. We just paid the chicken, and they don't have to starve today.
In America, supposedly.
Supposedly in Florida. It was.
So sorry.
Yeah, of course.
Like you have to get this straight. I mean, this was my mind-blowing moment. Jack Mellors is not here anymore. But like my first Lightning app that I created was just like a voting site for 250 sats, and Jack Mellors is basically pulling out his phone, recording a video, and he's like, "I just paid you." And like I'm seeing this video, and I just literally received 1 cent from the United States to Germany after 1 hour of programming. It's like the first time me using the Lightning Network. It's like it's so easy, right? And for you, I mean, you have all those apps nowadays. I mean, developers are creating much more stuff. But like, I mean, think about this. Like, how can you currently in the world do a value transfer of 1 US cent equivalent? It's like. And this person would not have feed the chicken, at least not in this particular moment, if we didn't have incentivized the person, right? So I mean, this is insanity, in my opinion, right? So anyway, sorry.
Yeah, it's about $9 and you there's no friction. It's basically instant. You saw how fast it went. The only thing that's a bit faster is the beer tap over there, but you don't have to send it through like around the whole world. This is also another thing that I would encourage you to try if you want to try it out in real life and actually get like something intangible in your hand.
But I think what has happened with the beer tap is that people from other places in the world have paid the bill. Because you can obviously make a photograph of the QR code, you can post it to your friends on social media or wherever, and ask them, hey, please, can you invite me for beer? And they can pay your beer here. It's not, I mean, the beer really just comes when the invoice is being paid, so, like, yeah.
So, just those were just some demonstrations to kind of show you what's possible. It's permissionless, it's global, it's instant, and basically everything that was talked about today. You can also read in this little brochure. We brought a couple. This was prepared for the Oslo Freedom Forum to basically teach beginners, but also advanced Bitcoiners a little bit more about Bitcoin, about options, how to use Bitcoin in a human rights context, how to use it privately, also how to use Lightning Network, and also to get you thinking. Because I guess the general idea is that we're still working on this. Like, this is not a finished product, but it's in the sense that there's always something to do. It works quite well already if you do it right, and it's a great tool already. And I guess it's probably the best tool we have right now in the world, and there's nothing in sight. So pay some chickens, try some beer, and read a little bit more about the Lightning Network, about Bitcoin, and there's another workshop coming up. And I give René the honor of the final words.
Thank you for being interested in this technology and really make it to the best of your use.
Thank you. Oh, and of course, like we have I think 10 minutes until the next workshop. So if you have any questions, you can ask now or come to us and talk about it. There's one more workshop coming up.
Rehydrating after yesterday.
Welcome. I have a question, and it's probably more related to what Matt Odell was talking about before. But if I just I have my own Lightning node, and I just put on-chain Bitcoin on it and send it to another one and send it back to a new address system, wouldn't it be like better than a coin join? Or
yeah, I sometimes say that using the Lightning Network as a coin join in slow motion, but you can teleport your UTX also obviously, right?
So if I you know what I'm trying to do, just hit
no, I
back.
don't.
Okay.
I think it's just running. I don't know.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right, everybody. The day is long, and we have one more thing to do. And I have the pleasure of having a special guest. So we're gonna get started if that's okay, and then we'll get out of here a little before 6:20, 6:25. But yeah, please grab beers, hang out. I can use a microphone. Yes, that's great. I'm honored to have Dr. Wolf von Leer here. Wolf is the head of Students for Liberty. He's going to tell you a little bit about what Students for Liberty is, because it's an incredible global organization that has incorporated Bitcoin in many ways. I figured I'd just start by laying out what I was thinking we would get to in this session. There's a couple other people here I'm going to call on, including my friend and hero, Meron Estefanos. Come on up here, Meron. From Eritrea, who rescues many people who are fleeing that country and does a lot of work in the Horn of Africa, and for many years had a lot of trouble sending them money, and then discovered Bitcoin, and then it got a little easier. So yeah, maybe the three of us can just sit in 3 chairs. Why don't you grab that one? What I wanted to do with this session essentially is just talk through how we at HRF use Bitcoin, and then kind of, because I know a lot of what's going to happen here is going to happen after this and in the coming weeks as we all chat with one another, as these two worlds, the Bitcoin world and the human rights world, are kind of coming together with people like Bertha. But I wanted to lay out like what we had in mind, and then hopefully that's a good blueprint for how you take these conversations forward. So just very briefly, what we like to make possible is for activists anywhere to be able to safely and securely receive Bitcoin donations, store them for as long as they wish, and then when they need to spend them into local fiat currency. That last part is actually kind of the trickiest part to do in a training because it's not a technical matter. It's a local socio-political, legal, cultural matter of like, well, what's the best way to do that? I mean, some people are fine with using a KYC service. Some people cannot use a KYC service. So there's a lot of layers there. There's also obviously a lot of questions about privacy that you've covered. But I thought it's worth pointing out that like one of the most successful examples of activists using Bitcoin in fundraising is the FBK, is the Navalny Foundation. They've literally been using the same public address for like 7 years, and it's fine. They're fine, and it's been funny to think about because we're all trained to think that's like, and it is true. It's horrifying, right, in certain ways, but it has not been a problem for them because the guy holding the key is not in Russia. So it's like he's somewhere else. So I think there's so many different nuances when you talk about activists and raising funds and incorporating it into their NGOs. But what we would like to do is make BTCpay and just mobile wallet like education available to activists so that they have it when they need it. And then in a higher level, when you're running an NGO, you want to be able to think about paying your employees, giving them the option to earn Bitcoin if they want. A lot of them are going to request Bitcoin and not. Or maybe stable coins, but they're not going to usually request a bank wire if you're wiring money to somebody in a inhospitable political environment. So I'd like to hear Wolf talk a little bit about what he's been able to do, which is really incredible, and then we'll also hear from Maren and what she's been able to do, and we'll take some questions. So.
Thank you, Alex, and it's good to be among so many freedom fighters, and it's great to see not only the human rights part of it, but also all the Bitcoiners, and I think that's like a marriage that really has made it happen. And it's going to be revolutionary. It already is right now. And so I'm running Students for Liberty, and we have operations in roughly 112 countries.
112 countries.
112 countries, yeah, give or take. I mean, we're working with volunteers, and those are students, so there's volatility baked in the business. But those students are fighting for free markets, free speech, and related ideas along those lines, and Bitcoin is a part of that. And so that means also that my staff, and I have 71 full-time staff members, are all across the world. And very often, if you try to pay somebody from the United States and Brazil, like that's a major headache. You cannot even like do it very well, and it's like very costly as well. And it would have like all kinds of regulatory effects on the person in that country. And so the easy thing is, of course, if you can offer them to pay them in Bitcoin. It doesn't mean that you have to hold it. It doesn't mean that you have to have it on your balance sheet. But it's just like a very easy thing to do, which makes you more attractive. If you're running a foundation or a non-profit, that makes you more attractive because you can offer something fairly easily. One other thing that we're working on right now, but it will take us some time, is to offer to all of our 2,000 to 3,000 volunteers lightning reimbursements. So if we pay them to organize like a local meetup and for beer and pizza, right? Then we don't have to send them fiat, but we can send them Bitcoin. And that would also allow me to orange pill them all very slowly, right, over time, so that they become Bitcoiners as well and say, like, okay, why is this? And that they can learn, like, actually can use it, using services like Bitrefill, for instance, to see that they can actually use services in their own country. So if you don't know what Bitrefill is, just go to the website, put in your country, and you can say like what you can reimburse your money for. And those are a few things that we've done, but I also have written, and if somebody is running a nonprofit here, please let me know. I'm happy to share some of this. I put together like a case on my board, why to use Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset, similar to like MicroStrategy and some of other Fortune 500 companies. Because yes, it might be volatile, but especially my fellow panelists, some of you are working in like very, very high inflation environment. If you are getting donations in your local currency, that's a huge risk for you. And even if you have like only 5% savings, that's better than none. And then you have to decide like where do you want to put it in. And I think it's a huge hedge against inflation to do this. So for nonprofits, it makes a lot of sense to do this. And I would just say it presents all kinds of philosophical components as well when you try to deal with Bitcoin in your business or in your nonprofit. First and foremost, it allows also your staff taking in Bitcoin to have like a lower time preference, and many of you know what that means, but it just means that you can save into something else that's not necessarily inflating. Give you one example. My number 2 in terms of programs, he's in Nigeria. That country right now, I think the latest numbers is like 16 to 17% inflation. he earns decently, but like if he wants to save for the future, he cannot really do that. So right now he gets some of his payment in Bitcoin, and he just says this is going to be my savings for the future. So he can allow to plan for himself and for his family, and that's such a gift, right? Most people in the West, where you have like low inflation, even though there's a few places left that have low inflation, you don't have that issue. But this allows your staff and people you care about, your community you care about, to have something that gives them certainty that there will be never more than 21 million Bitcoin. And that is just a thing of beauty, and that really gives a gift to your staff and your community. And those would be like some of the things that I would say, besides also like paying vendors, being more attractive for hiring, and of course receiving donations. And we're running a BTCpay server ourselves, so it's fairly easy to do. And people can give us Lightning, Bitcoin donations, or you can also go to James Lobb's website. Is it lob.net?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. What is it?
Bitcoin.page.
I mean, Lob, basically, James Lob, if you Google him, find his page, he has basically a whole list of like other sites where you can get your nonprofit on in order to receive crypto donations. We are more fans of Bitcoin here, but if you get sent some Ethereum, we'll take it, right? So just get on that site as well, so that you can not only get like Bitcoin donations, but everything. And there's also like, what's it called, the block, the company that's forgetting the name right now. It will come to me and I will mention it. And there's like a bunch of these services where you can get your nonprofit on, and that will help you receive more money.
A couple questions. So do you guys use like a kind of like a strike-based service I mean, if someone asks to be paid in Bitcoin, do you pay them in fiat, but it goes, I mean, or what do you pay them in, technically on your end?
So we don't want to make it too complicated, right? So am I ashamed? I don't know. We're using Coinbase for that. So we just like, when it's payday, we pay them twice a month. We just like transfer whatever we have from dollars into Bitcoin and then send them that immediately.
Okay.
That's how we do it.
Yeah, the second thing I would just say is, well, that's a big question that you struggle with, though, right? Because we get a lot of Bitcoin donations, but we get more fiat donations. So when we run our Bitcoin Development Fund grants, we offer, what do you want? Now, a lot of people, like let's say we give $50,000 to somebody. A lot of, and they're almost always in emerging markets, authoritarian regimes. Sometimes they just want the Bitcoin, but often they'll want half and half, which is totally cool. So we'll give them $25,000 in a bank wire, and they'll give them $25,000 in Bitcoin. We see that often, actually. But it's only because we receive a lot of Bitcoin donations that we can do this. We decided as an internal policy that we don't really want to be buying Bitcoin with fiat donations. It just, in America especially, it just presents issues. Our banks ask questions and stuff. So for us, it's just easier to pay out of Bitcoin, basically. And like you, we run our own BTCpay server and have our own multi-sig and stuff like that. Other thing I was going to get to before we get to Marin is just multi-sig, and I know that Ben, you've made some cool videos around this, but as it gets easier and easier and easier to quickly set up like 5 Androids and just do like a 3 of 5, that's going to start getting really appealing. Because like obviously if you are in Ethiopia, and you don't want to have all your Bitcoin as an organization on one person's phone. That's super dangerous. But if it's 3 of 5 and 3 of the keys are in Europe, you're great. You're 100% fine. It's similar to the idea of the Navalny people, even in a 1 of 1 situation. Well, their 1 of 1 is not in Russia, so they're completely fine, right? So the idea is you want to diversify out of the local environment. But I think these like, as mobile multi-sig software wallets start getting easier and easier and easier to do this, where it just takes like a couple clicks, ideally in the future, then that's going to start getting really appealing. So we heard from Wolf. Obviously after this, I'd love for you all to talk to Wolf, get to know him, and the work his organization's doing. So now we'll hear from Marin. Why don't you just tell them a little bit about, first of all, your background and the work you're doing, and then the issues you were having, and then why you started to use Bitcoin and kind of how that's going.
Thank you for having me.
Should I get some water?
Sure.
I'll get you some water.
So I'm Marin Stefanos. I'm based in Sweden. I'm originally from Eritrea. My activism is, besides opposing the Eritrean dictatorship, it's helping refugees. I felt like I'm in Sweden opposing the Eritrean government that's very far away, and I didn't feel like I was reaching the people, so we started radio. broadcasting via shortwave, because Eritrea have only 2% penetration, internet penetration, so we decided since nobody's going to listen to podcasts, so it's better to go the old way. So 2006, we started the first radio broadcasting into Eritrea via shortwave and satellite. And then in 2008, I did one program. I interviewed refugees that were kidnapped. I don't know if you guys have made film on. He spoke yesterday or the day before.
Yes.
Yeah. So I heard about them getting kidnapped, and I decided, okay, let me just do one interview. So that one interview, what was supposed to be one interview, became like a lifetime dedication, because it just felt like I was the only one reporting about the kidnapping and torture of refugees, and slowly, because nobody was doing anything about it, these are African refugees that nobody cared. Our government doesn't care about us. The international community doesn't care if African refugees kidnapped in Egypt. So, it just became like my dedication, and I started collecting money for ransom because nobody was saving these people. Either you pay or you die, that's the only option. So I know paying ransom is not good, but I just had to do it, and paid over $10 million in ransom to free as many hostages. I don't know how many I've freed. So ever since, my phone number became a hotline for refugees, where refugees from the Mediterranean Sea would call me and say, we're drowning, we need help. And then I'll have to call the Italian Coast Guards, give them their coordinates to go and rescue them, which is often, there's a bureaucracy. Italy will tell you call Malta, and Malta will say call Italy, because they don't want to rescue them and take them into their country. So every refugee started sharing my number to everyone, and sometimes it's written like in prisons in Libya, in Egypt, or elsewhere, where people that I don't know keeps calling, wanting for help. Either they are kidnapped, or about to be deported, or about to be drowned. So I run a hotline, basically. It's not really a hotline, but it's a one-woman hotline.
And how many people would you estimate you've helped rescue in the last decade, roughly?
I don't really know. I mean, there is an article.
More than 10? More than 100? I don't know.
According to a journalist who counted, which the article came out, I think, like 6-7 years ago, it was over 16,000 refugees.
How many?
16,000.
16,000. Yeah, just Maren spoke on our main stage many years ago, and she's been a stalwart part of our community ever since. So that's when, we've been very close. And then she started to I don't know when you eventually started seeing what I was doing. And you were like, this is interesting. And then yeah. So let's keep going. Sorry to interrupt.
So Alex, for the past 11 years since I've known him, has always had workshops on blockchain, and I've attended, but I was not interested. But slowly, I don't know, the more I attended to his workshops, I start getting it. I'm like, oh, we can use this for Eritrea, because we send money via Hawala, which is basically I give money in Sweden to a person that I don't know. I don't know if he's going to deliver the money or not, but he trusts the person, he's going to do it. And then he would contact my mom. His people would contact my mom and give her in cash. This is the way we've been sending for many, many years. And another reason why we use Hawala is because the exchange rate is, the government will give you $1,500 for $100 exchange rate. And on the streets at that time was like 8,000 nakfa, so which was 6,500 difference. So of course everybody's going to send using the Hawala, but then the government started cracking down on the Hawala, and they changed the money just to stop them, and suddenly the value became 1,500 everywhere. Even if I send it using Hawala, it's the same thing. And then the Hawala people start asking
So even the black market rate just dried up, basically.
Yeah, but
because
the
it was
black
so
market
repressive.
was run by them as well.
Right.
So somehow, because they need the dollar, so they control the black market when they need a dollar, and then they put it up.
Just to give you an example of another country that's similar, Cuba also has people trying to escape. The official rate is like 25, let's say, pesos to the dollar, and now they're shipped to a different system. But there's a website that tracks this, and for example, on the street, the actual rate is 100 to a dollar. So if you sent it officially, I mean, basically the government's stealing all your money. So you want to send it black market rate. But what you're describing is that they've just made that even very difficult, right?
Yeah. And that you even have to register your name. So suddenly the Hawala people start asking for ID. me as an activist, if I would send money to my mom using my name, she would be in trouble. Because I'm accused of being a foreign operative, so my mom would be automatically accused of collaborating with me, so I don't dare to send any money using my name, whether it's Hawala or Western Union or anything. But then HRF gave us this Bitcoin workshop that was amazing.
When was this?
That was, I don't know,
2 years ago, maybe? Yeah.
Yeah. But like, the workshop was amazing. I finally got everything, and then I said, I can do this in my language. So Alex said I could translate the Little Bitcoin book, which I did to Tigrinya. And then after that, I started giving.
So we have that as a free PDF, by the
Yeah.
way, on the Little Bitcoin Books website. And how many people speak Tigrinya? Is it because it's the Eritreans, but it's also obviously the people that we heard from Lucy's talk earlier today. 7 million of them or something are trapped.
7 plus 3, so we were about 10 million people speak Tigrinya.
Yeah. So you have, and how many people in Eritrea?
In Eritrea is about 3.5.
So you have 3.5 million people stuck in a massive, essentially open-air prison in Eritrea,
Exactly.
and then you have another 7 million stuck under a military siege.
Exactly.
And they all got their bank accounts frozen, by the way.
Yeah.
The Tigrians. So you have 10 million people who desperately need another kind of money, is the point.
Exactly. So after the Little Bitcoin book was translated to Tigrinya, so I started doing 3 workshops in a week, just to refugees that are in East Africa. So to get them interested, what I do is that at the end of this 3 days workshop, then they receive $50 worth of Bitcoin, which HRF had donated to me. And
So they had phones, but they were refugees.
Yeah.
Meaning they didn't have a bank account or anything in them. So they were they in like Kenya now, or where were they?
Some are in Uganda, some are in Kenya, in Sudan.
And these are primarily Eritreans.
Eritreans and
Interesting.
Eritreans.
So not all the Eritreans go north. Some go east and south, is what
They
you're
are
saying.
more in East.
Okay, interesting.
Actually,
So people from Eritrea are escaping throughout East Africa, and then they're basically like almost like North Koreans in China.
Exactly.
Like they don't necessarily speak the local language. They definitely don't have a bank account, but they have a phone. Okay, so you were like teaching them how to receive value, and there was, technically impossible to send any other. You couldn't send them money any other way, right?
Yeah.
How did you do it before you learned about Bitcoin? It was all Hawala, basically?
It was always Hawala or Western Union.
And Hawala is a, I don't know, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000-year-old technology.
Yeah.
So it's taken a while to upgrade, huh?
Exactly. Yeah.
Finally upgraded Hawala after
Yeah.
many thousands of years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but like a year and a half ago, I started paying my researchers in Bitcoin, which was amazing for me. They are based in Ethiopia, and because of the war, I don't want their names to be registered anywhere.
So the people that you actually collaborate with are based in Ethiopia. And instead of doing Hawala to Burr, you're sending them Bitcoin, and then they're making a decision about maybe they save it or maybe they just sell it for Burr. But if they're in the big city, it's actually pretty easy for them to sell into Burr.
Yeah, it was pretty easy. We were using Paxful from the beginning, and it was great. But later on, Paxful started asking now for passports, so which is becoming difficult. I was asking earlier the Bitcoin people here if there is another way to sell.
Do you know Casa?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So Cal should be able to give you some info on basically there's like Telegram groups and once you can no longer use KYC P2P exchanges, you have to go into Telegram groups. So there are probably groups in Ethiopia. I don't know the situation for every country, which is why this is difficult, but I'll give you an example. In Ukraine, there is a service called Alice Bob, and it is an incredible service. It's a Telegram front-end bot where you basically send it Bitcoin, and it just like immediately wires into your bank account whatever amount of money it is. And what's cool is that the government, of course, the Ukrainian government is bigger fish fry at the moment, so it's not looking at this. But there's no limit. It's completely no KYC. And what's interesting is even if they were looking, all they see is little bank wires. They have no idea that there's something to do with Bitcoin on the other end. All they see is this person sending this person a bank wire. And the Ukrainian economy and financial system is built on these small little transactions. Like people are used to tapping their phones together, so it's actually really common for little wires to go back and forth. So he's telling me that this front end is just like if I sent if I sent my friend Gleb, who's there in Ukraine now, $1,000 in Bitcoin, or if I send him a $500 lightning payment, in minutes he can have that in hryvnia in his bank account. It's extremely easy. So one of the information resources that I kind of want to help create
And I don't know if it would be a public one, but it'd be cool to have like an activist world map of, basically rankings of, this thing died, I guess. Although, there we go. Of reputable P2P exchanges. Now, there many countries have this. So I learned that the one in Russia is called Best Change or something like that. It's like a rating service for P2P exchanges. So people will say, oh, this one was terrible, I lost all my money, or this one's like really good, I've been using it for years and it's great. So some countries have this where they like rank them, and these range from like, again, completely no KYC to maybe on the other end a bank wire. But some of them you can do physical meetups even. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe you want to talk a little bit more about just was the eureka moment, the moment when you were like, wait a second, you could just send this value one place to another? Or what was how did that process go for you? Because you were skeptical for a while, right?
Yeah. I think the workshop, the way it was explained, and then we had like the developers, the Paxful people were there.
Yes.
And they showed us like step by step, they shared the screen. So it was finally it made sense to me, and also having the example from Venezuela, that's when I said if Venezuelans are doing this, we should be definitely doing it.
Definitely.
So, and it's going great.
So now you're teaching all kinds of people in the Horn of Africa about this, and it's amazing. So I mean, look, obviously, maybe Bitcoin's not for everybody, but it's certainly for activists, and we just want to make sure that that if you need it, that you learn, right? And I think we're going to get there. But I deeply appreciate you sharing your story here. And we definitely want to have your story told more often in the Bitcoin community because it's really, really cool. What wallets are they mainly using today? Are they Blue Wallet, or what's the wallet you like to use?
I've been using Moon Wallet and Blue Wallet, and I teach them always like the two wallets as well. But so everybody somehow favors Blue Wallet because it's easy, and with Moon Wallet, the invoice expires within an hour. So it complicates things to people that are not used to Bitcoin. So everybody chooses like the Blue Wallet.
And you obviously they like Lightning.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
Lightning, very awesome. Yeah. Obviously, everybody. So why don't I figure we take a couple questions and then this maybe just allow people to hang out and talk to you. But if anyone wants to,
Can you just comment? I didn't know about this Alice Bob situation, but you're obviously trusting somebody to.
Oh yeah, I can clarify that.
Given that there are a lot of scams and ways in which people can
totally.
send
Yeah, no,
Bitcoin
to underline, this would be
fiat.
for small payments only because you're entirely trusting a service in a country that's at war. But Gleb, who is a Bitcoin core developer, and certainly is.
Running it?
No, but he uses it personally. So, and he's smart enough to not send that much value, but for like daily needs, like people like him keep a lot of their money in Bitcoin, and then they only convert to Grivna is like basically collapsing, and it could collapse like another 50% at any moment. Like the government is basically like propping it up. So he doesn't want to have any money in Grivna. Tether is very in demand in Ukraine, and so is Bitcoin, but he'll just cash in a little bit to buy the stuff he needs. So for like $500, he's completely fine trusting it because it works all the time. But yeah, clearly like the interest of the community here in trying to find ways to have Bitcoin on a Bitcoin wallet and somehow peg that value to $1 exposure comes from this concern that we don't want to like be trusting a centralized exchange. We'd love to just actually hold our Bitcoin, but somehow maybe peg it to the dollar. But that's maybe in the future. The point is that yes, there are going to be massive warnings about all these things as we teach people. But all I was saying is there's probably like stuff like that in Ethiopia. We just need local information, and the more kind of regional experts we can get, the better. I'm always asked about. I was talking with activists from Saudi Arabia today. Numerous incredible Saudi activists here, right? And it's like, think about it. Like women in Saudi Arabia, a lot of them have phones, but they can't do anything, and a lot of them aren't allowed to open a bank account. But they could. I mean, we could send them money, or their family could send them money, and they could relatively easily transfer that into. We could send them Bitcoin, and they could relatively easily transfer that into local currency and spend it all without their husbands or whatever known. So there's like so much potential for this. It's just a matter of education. Anyway, any other quick questions here?
Yeah, Ben.
I was just going to ask, in terms of physically protecting Bitcoin in locally, have you had issues with people having their phones taken and Bitcoin taken, or has that not been an issue yet? Or
Not yet. So far, I mean, no one has ever.
Yeah, I was just because multi-sig was brought up. I was just curious. If
I think that's the future, right? And we wanna. I think we want to teach in a way that is way safer than necessary.
Yes.
Like the interesting thing that I'm pointing out is that we are like hyper concerned with privacy and security in the Bitcoin community. That is not mapping to reality where people are using Bitcoin in a way that we would be aghast at, and they're completely fine, and nothing ever happens. Now we know that's not the bar we want to aim for. We should also just understand that, practically speaking, the extreme level of privacy and security that we aim for is simply like, it's good because we're like overcompensating. Like that's just not the case for people. I mean, people are. The fact that Bitcoin can't be seized remotely if you're holding the private key, and the fact that it's not in the local currency, makes all the difference in the world. I guess is from what I've seen. Anyway, do you want to comment? Well, yeah.
And on the flip side, it's very important to tell the stories that we hear here about what's happening to some folks that do this sort of work and how easy it can happen. Give you like one example. We reimbursed one student in China for $200 for doing one event. The very next day.
In what form of currency?
We sent it like to his currency. In his currency, we sent
like
it
a bank wire.
A bank wire.
Yeah.
From the US to China.
Yes.
The very next day, he was asked to go to the police station to justify what's happening here. Because there's three things that there's many things that the Chinese government hates, but there's three things in particular hates. It's student organization, like thinking Tiananmen Square, right? It's foreign organizations, and it's of course organizations that advocate for free markets and liberty. And so they were immediately on top of him. And yes, they're very sophisticated, but there's so many more stories where people got their bank accounts shut down, and it's just horrific when hearing the stories that you were sharing. And like just telling that to folks, and maybe then a light bulb goes off and say like, maybe I need to have like a plan B, or I need to have at least a plan B for the people that I care about in countries where they're more vulnerable than people in the Western countries.
Thank you, Wolf. One more question, or we can break to hang? Yeah? Okay. All right. Thank you all very much. This is actually the last piece of content at the Oslo Freedom Forum. So thank you all very much. We released the dates for next year. It's June 5 to 7. So who knows what will happen in the next 12 months, but I think we're going to convert a lot more people to using freedom money for sure. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Ben, for running today. Got a lot of great feedback, and we'll keep tinkering with this format. So please give us your feedback. Send it to Ben. Send it to me. We're going to be helping sponsor, obviously, a conference in Accra, Ghana, that Fode and Frida are doing. Yeah, in December. And one of the things I was talking to Bernard about was like, it'd be amazing to have that first session we had today where we're just like hands-on, but in a gigantic room with like just 500 people, and we're just, in an hour, we're just onboarding like 500 people. Like that's the sort of thing we could do. I mean, that'd be a lot of fun. So we'll keep jamming on that, and I hope you all consider coming to the African Bitcoin Conference. It's going to be awesome.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right, thank you, everybody. Thanks, dude. Thank you.